Have you ever stopped to listen, and I mean really stopped to listen about how people talk about God? You know, usually they use quite abstract and impersonal terms, you know. Maybe you can get out of people well, the man upstairs from time to time. But you know, philosophers have been talking about God for many centuries, and often they'll use terms like God is the absolute. He is the silence. He is the depths. He is the ineffable. He is the unknowable. This idea that God is, if he exists at all, is completely checked out from this world. He doesn't govern or he's not involved in the affairs of men. He's an ultimate mystery. On the other hand, people will talk about God in rather intimate terms, like God is I have a spark of him within me, or he is the animating force of the world and nature. These two ways of talking about God really seem contradictory. On the one hand, people want to say that God is so high and so exalted, so transcendent above things that he just doesn't care about the affairs of men. He's like the watchmaker who kind of got everything going and he wound it up, and the universe just sort of runs on its own now, and then he's off, doing whatever it is an unknowable, ineffable God does. God is just completely checked out. On the other hand, God is just so involved and he's so intimate that he's identified with nature itself. These are the two most common ways that people conceive of God. He is either totally transcendent or he is, the technical term is totally immanent. The one view is deism, what's known classically as deism, God's checked out. The other is pantheism, that God is identified with all things. What's interesting about both of those ways of talking about God is how abstract they are. They are impersonal. You know, a God who's checked out, who's not involved in your life or the life of your neighbors, is not a person to be related to. He's the man upstairs at best. Likewise, George Lucas's May the Force Be With You is a pretty cold and impersonal way of talking about deity. It's so significant then that the Christian faith, the Christian confession begins with, I believe in God the Father. Father is not an abstract term. That's not an impersonal term. That is the name of a person. A father is somebody you can relate to. A father is somebody who speaks, who reveals himself. He gets down on a knee to talk to his children. He's engaged in the life and the lives of his children. Father is a very personal name. Jesus said that God's name is now Father, Son, and Holy Spirit. Jesus, in fact, intensified this relationship of God as Father in his own day. He constantly went around talking about his Father in heaven, and many of the Jews of the time were a little bit offended by that. They thought that Jesus was claiming some sort of special and unique relationship to God that nobody else had. And in fact, they were right. Jesus was claiming a unique relationship because Jesus himself has been with the Father in eternity as the second member of the Holy Trinity. We learn from John chapter 1. In the beginning was the Word, and the Word was with God, and the Word was God. And it's interesting, John chapter 1 resolves for us once and for all this idea of the transcendence of God, his exaltedness, the fact that he's not beholden to his own creation, and yet his immanence, because that same gospel, the prologue of John's gospel, says that in the beginning was the Word was with God, and the Word was God, and that through the Word God made all things. God is the maker of heaven and earth, as the Apostles' Creed says. John goes on to tell us, and the Word became flesh and made his dwelling among us. You see what the pagans were groping for in their talk of their abstract deity, the ineffable, exalted one, or as the animating life force that's close and near to us. What the pagans were groping for is really found in full flower in Christianity. The Word who is exalted above all has become flesh and made is dwelling among us. True transcendence and true immanence are found in God, Father, Son, and Holy